Welcome to this course on researching violence against women and girls. I'm very excited to be teaching this course together with my colleagues Manuel Contreras and Diana Arango, and we think you'll really enjoy it. In this course, you'll be learning how to carry out rigorous, ethically sound research using a variety of methods to understand the phenomenon of violence against women and girls and how to address it. You'll be learning both qualitative and quantitative methods, and you'll be learning how to use your findings to make change on the ground and in policies. The main text for the research is a research manual that I wrote with Lori Heisey in 2005, and it really captures a lot of the experiences that we had in carrying out the WHO multi-country study on women's health and domestic violence against women, which you'll be hearing a lot about during this course. We turned it into a 2-week residential course that was given to NGO leaders and practitioners and activists, both in Africa and Central America. And we did this course together with the Medical Research Council of South Africa. So a lot of what we're doing in this course is based on what we learned and the experiences of our colleagues in Africa and Central America. Of course, you all have a greater background in public health, and that should make some of these more technical issues, especially around data analysis and survey design, those will be a lot easier for you than for people who didn't have any background in public health. And for the purpose of this course, we've also really updated the material so that you'll get a chance to read some of the most recent groundbreaking research that has come out in the last few years on this subject. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the different topics that are covered, and it goes pretty closely, it tracks pretty closely with the research manual, but there will be a fair amount of supplemental readings that will help you understand more in depth what we're talking about. So we start out with an introduction to violence against women and girls, the different types of violence, the definitions, the magnitude and global prevalence. Then we'll look at violence against women and girls as a health and development issue. And there we'll be looking at the global burden of disease that is caused by different forms of violence against women, with a real emphasis on intimate partner violence. Then we get into the research side of things. And first we'll talk about how to develop a research strategy, how to decide what it is you actually want to know, and then how to design a study that will help you find out what you want to know. And you'll know whether you need to use qualitative or quantitative or both methods, and you'll be learning how to do all of that. Then we'll focus for 2 weeks specifically on quantitative methods. And there you're going to learn different designs like cross-sectional surveys, longitudinal designs. You'll learn how to measure and define violence in a research way. And you'll learn how to build a questionnaire, for example, so that you're asking and obtaining really rigorous data on violence. We'll talk a lot about ethical concerns throughout the course because we've found that that is one of the issues that really sets this kind of research apart from other inquiries, for example, infant mortality or diarrhea or immunizations. When we talk about doing research on violence against women and girls, that can really be a life or death issue for many people. And we want to make sure that we're not putting women at risk and that we're not harming the well-being of our interviewers and researchers as we carry out this research. We'll also look into some of the issues and challenges that can come up in the field, and we'll be relying a lot on the WHO multi-country study for examples. And then finally, how do we analyze the data? We've got this whole pile of numbers and data and graphs, and how do we turn it into something meaningful that really carries a message and a story that people will be able to understand and that they'll find compelling. After that, we'll move into qualitative research, and there we'll be looking at 2 basic types of research, both in-depth qualitative research and participatory action research. And we'll talk about why you might use one method over the other in different circumstances, and what kinds of tools do we use to collect qualitative data. So we'll be talking about focus groups, about in-depth interviews, Venn diagrams, timelines, a lot of very exciting participatory methods that we've been using in a lot of different circumstances. Then we'll get into an area which is more related to programs themselves, and that is monitoring and evaluation of interventions. And Manuel Contreras will be leading that part of it, and we'll divide it into two pieces. The first one is really understanding how do you design a program so that you will be able to monitor it along the way and understand if it's going well, and finally, if it achieves the impact that it was meant to achieve. Impact evaluation is a pretty new field in violence against women, but a really important one. And you'll be hearing some of the newest examples of really groundbreaking research to evaluate programs on the ground. Finally, in our last session, we will be talking about how do you use evidence for change? And we consider this really one of the most important parts of this. We are not doing this research to answer questions driven by our own curiosity or just to get it published. Most of us who work in this field, and I hope you will be led to do more research in this field, we do it because we really believe in it and we think it can make a difference in the lives of women and in their communities. And so we're going to really explore what kinds of strategies and what experience activists and researchers have used to make their research more meaningful and to have a greater impact. So we're going to be using a lot of different methods in this course. We hope it will be very interesting and I shouldn't say entertaining because violence against women and girls doesn't really sound like an entertaining idea, but I think you'll find it really fascinating, as I have. We will be having guest lecturers, and many of them will be the authors of the papers you will be reading. We're very lucky that Lori Heisey and Laurie Michaud from Raising Voices in Uganda, Naima Abrahams from South Africa will be joining us to give presentations about their work as well. We will be having in our live sessions a lot of experiential activities, exercises that will help you practice and understand the concepts that we're discussing in the lectures, and to really hone your skills around data collection, research design, analysis, and research uptake. As I said earlier, we'll be giving you a main text, which is the research manual, but that's really just sort of the tip of the iceberg. It's really just an overview. To really understand how research is done, you have to read the research itself. So we've selected what we think are some of the really seminal pieces of research around global burden of disease and prevalence, and some of the most exciting pieces of impact evaluations that have come out recently. And then finally, you'll be doing group activities both in your live sessions and then as individual homework, where you will be working on different aspects of how you develop a research protocol and how you design data. So the final piece of the course, the final project, is going to be a full research proposal. And don't be too scared. You'll be doing it in groups, and you'll be learning everything, every piece of this along the way you'll be practicing. But what we want you to do is think of your own research question, something that you think is important and that you want to know the answer to. And then you're gonna turn it into a proposal. You will be doing with your colleagues and team members, you will be doing a literature review, you will be writing up a background and justification, you'll have research objectives and research questions. You will be designing an appropriate study design that meets the kinds of questions that you're asking. And then you're going to really think about safety and ethical considerations and how you're going to make sure that this really meets the rigorous standards that we will be expecting of you and that we'll be talking with you about. So I really hope you enjoy this course. I know we're going to enjoy it, and you will be seeing a lot more of me in the future.